되네. 다 단다. 대화진도 주제에.
So the fourth cause for rebirth in Dewa Chen is to make a prayer, a wishing prayer. And there are like two kinds of prayers. There are those which cannot be fulfilled and those which can be fulfilled. So for example, those that cannot be fulfilled, it means something for which there is no cause that exists. So if Rinpoche, for example, prays for a flower to grow on his table, and however much he prays that a flower is not going to grow on his table, and there's no cause there for a flower to come. But say through, if you keep like praying and thinking, I want to have a flower growing on my table. This is very important. I really need to have a flower there. Then through thinking that, then eventually you'll go and buy a flower pot and put some compost in it and some seeds, and water it, take good care of it, till eventually there will be a flower growing on the table, because then you've established like a cause for a flower to grow. So in the same way, if one prays to be reborn in Dewa Chen, one just prays to do that without any of the causes for rebirth in Dewa Chen, then nothing will happen. But one will be reborn there if one has the causes, like that of keeping Dewa Chen in mind, imagining Dewa Chen, and secondly gathering the accumulation, so that one has a great accumulation of merit. And then the third cause of developing the bodhicitta, of creating very strong, good motivation, good aspiration. Then if one has cultivated these three causes and then does the prayer for rebirth in Dewa Chen, then it can be fulfilled. One can be reborn there. So that's the fourth cause of the prayer. And so if one cultivates the three causes and then does the wishing prayer, one can be reborn in Dewa Chen. But also through this and through this supplication to be reborn in Dewa Chen, one can also see see Amitabha. See at least Amitabha in this life. Oh my goodness. And so, like, particularly at the time of, even at the time of death, that one can may see Amitabha, that it's that it's like as a sign that one is going to be like reborn in Dewa Chen. So one sees Amitabha and feels great joy and so on. And this is because at the time of death, that person is to change their bodies, so they're going to leave this body for another, and at that point then some illusory appearances can arise, and illusory appearances of the bardo can begin to arise during the process of dying. So if someone has habituated themselves to the practice of praying to Amitabha and for being reborn in Dewa Chen, then through that one could say there's an illusory appearance, so one can say it is a pure vision of Amitabha, and seeing that will fill one with joy, and it is like a sign of that one is going to be reborn in Dewa Chen. So, but there's sometimes, even though one has accomplished all the causes for rebirth in Dewa Chen and done the prayer, there can still be an obstacle that can prevent rebirth there. And that is attachment to this life, or attachment to the pleasures of this life. And so, therefore, one has to overcome that, and thinks of the sufferings that there are in samsara, and the sufferings in the lower existences, and think how in Dewa-chen there are none of these sufferings and just happiness. And so sometimes people can like pray for rebirth as a human being. So in a way that is a very good thing, to be reborn as a human being. But then also that if one is reborn as a human being, one will have to go through a process of birth, and then there will be sickness and aging, and then death again, and then one has to be reborn again, and then there's aging and death again, and so this continuous process. So there are many difficulties, hardships, sufferings that one has to endure. So if one prays to go to Dewa-chen, then one is reborn there, one will be free of all these difficulties and sufferings and hardships. So if one thinks in that way and cultivates that attitude and does that wishing prayer, then one will be free from that obstacle of attachment to this life. Then at the time of death, one may see Amitabha, one will go on to rebirth in Dewa-chen without any attachment. One will just go straight ahead without any looking backwards, forwards to rebirth to Dewa-chen. So, for description of what Dewa-chen is like, because somebody asked the other day, what is Dewa-chen like? So Rinpoche is going to then describe what it is. So when one hears that, one may feel a little doubtful about it, or kind of disbelief, and that's only natural because talking about a place that we've never been to, so we have no experience of what the place is like. So when we hear about it, we may think that this is kind of very unlikely. But it's like, for example, she'd been to Malaysia, and then talking to someone who knew nothing about geography, never traveled, didn't know anything. You'd say, it's in Malaysia. There's no summer, there's no winter. It's the same all the time. And maybe in the June, July, maybe it gets a bit warmer. December, maybe a little bit cooler. But it's a tropical country, so it just stays the same all the time. There's no summer, winter, autumn. And so saying that to someone who doesn't know anything about it, they just say, what? That's no summer, no winter. That's just not possible. And then and then the same the way around, that saying to someone, well, in the other countries that in the summer, the days get longer, and in the winter, the days get shorter, and so the person will say, what? You have, it's the same sun, is it? I mean, and is it the same sun that this is the winter and the summer, there's no winter, same time, it's the same heat. So if it's the same sun, the same, how can it be, that it doesn't get colder or hotter? How can the day get longer and shorter? So very people get very surprised, and then when Rinpoche went to Tibet, and he went to Tibet, and he was telling people, in Malaysia it's the same all year round. In Malaysia there's no change at all. In the sun, the day never gets longer, the night never gets shorter. They always stay exactly the same, and the weather stays exactly the same. There's no getting warmer in the summer, or getting colder in the winter. And people in Tibet are just saying, Thrangu Rinpoche is just, making up stories. He's telling lies. It's not true. How could that be? It's ridiculous. So, in a way, for us, it may not be as surprising to us that the days grow longer, and then days grow shorter. To us, they seem quite ordinary, but for somebody who's never heard about it, and never been there, this sounds, like ludicrous that the day gets longer and the day gets shorter. So it's like that. If one hasn't been to a place, one may be very surprised to hear what it's like, or feel very doubtful whether it's really true. So Dewa-chen is a place which is just a place of happiness, so a place without any suffering or difficulties. And so it's like, we're saying that in America life is very pleasant, very happy, and it's very well developed, highly developed country. So like everywhere else in the world, they want to be like America. So they say, what kind of houses do you have in America? We want that kind of house. What kind of clothes do people wear in America? That's the kind of clothes I'd like to wear. How do people make their living? How do people live? That's the way we would like to be. That's how people in the rest of the world look at America. And so, with that, one looks at in that way as Dewa Chen. That Dewa Chen is like a pure realm. So there's this contrast between pure realms and impure realms. So in the pure realm of Dewa Chen, that there and like in this human world, that everything is very naturally peaceful, calm, tranquil, controlled. So it's a very pleasant, peaceful place. So people don't have to undergo any hardships or difficulties. So in the human world, if one is a human, then that means you have to undergo birth and sickness and aging and death. That's the kind of human condition that we have to undergo those things. And also that in order to gain prosperity or wealth, that one has to work hard to be able to obtain it. And in Dewa Chen, that just naturally, that right from the beginning, that there is no birth, and then there is also no sickness and no aging, and because of the nature of the existence, of physical existence in that realm, that there is no death. And there's nothing that has to be like created or made, that in Dewa Chen things are just naturally present. So it's described in the Amitabha Sutra, the qualities of the ground in Sukhavati, in Dewa Chen, that the ground is very soft and comfortable. So unlike in this world, you have to make roads, and to make roads, and you have to like build walls. So you have to dig out a road, or build a bridge. So you have to go a lot of difficulties to create a road, and then it might rain, and might be bad weather. You can have like landslides and floods, and so you have all these difficulties. But in Dewa Chen, you don't have that at all, because the ground is just naturally soft and comfortable, and there's no need to make any roads. And and then also there's the description of the nature of the qualities of the trees there. So here trees can be like poisonous, or you can have trees that are dangerous, or like thick forests in which it's dangerous to go. But in Dewa Chen, the trees are all very pleasant and beneficial, and so that's the nature of the trees in Dewa Chen. And then there's the water. So here we have the water, and sometimes you have polluted water, dangerous waters, and sometimes the rivers get very big and destructive, or sometimes they start drying up. The rain hasn't fallen and they just dry up altogether. But in Dewa Chen, the waters are not like that. So in Dewa Chen, the waters are very pleasant and beneficial. And so, like through the power of merit, there things are like this. Like nothing has to be done, nothing has to be created or fabricated. Just naturally, everything is pleasant. And like the weather, like here the weather, sometimes it gets too hot and sometimes it gets too cold. So when it's too hot, you have to do something to stop yourself from getting too hot, and when it's too cold, you have to do something to stop yourself from getting too cold. But then in Dewa Chen, you don't need to do that, because the temperature is always just right. And so without having to do anything, and you don't have to do anything, because it's always just pleasant. So that's what the world, the environment in Dewa Chen is like. And then as for the beings within it, and the beings there, they don't have to experience suffering of birth, they don't have to experience suffering of illness, they don't have to experience suffering of aging, they don't have to experience the suffering of death. So there's no birth, sickness, aging or death there in Dewachen. And so people don't suffer from like poverty, don't suffer from hunger, and so everything is just naturally pleasant. So there are no difficulties or hardships. And also, unlike in the human realm, where people in their relation to each other have anger or have jealousy and so on, or pride, that in Dewachen everyone has the bodhicitta, and so everyone has compassion, and so no one wishes to harm someone else, no one says unpleasant words to anyone else, so no one gets angry with anyone else. So instead everyone lives very happily in Dewachen. And the main being in Dewachen is Amitabha, and Amitabha is there continually turning the wheel of the Dharma for a long time. And so as for the beings who are reborn there, then you're an ordinary being and then you are reborn there. But when you are reborn there, it doesn't mean that you then become an Arya, it doesn't mean you become an enlightened being. But when you are reborn there, then you are naturally able to practice the Dharma, and naturally the defilements are much smaller, and naturally you have good motivation, and so have little difficulties in practicing the Dharma. And then also one is able to benefit other beings. If one wishes to benefit beings in an impure realm, then one can go there and benefit others. One can emanate into impure worlds to benefit others. And so in Dewachen there are just these great bodhisattvas, and there's no one wishes to harm another, and all the beings who are there have a good motivation, and so all the favorable circumstances for practicing the Dharma. And so it's like going to Harvard University, where they have all the very good teachers and all very good students and a very good library. So you have all the conditions you need to study well. So in the same way that in Dewachen you have all the conditions and circumstances you need to be able to practice the Dharma well, all the great bodhisattvas and the Dharma, and just naturally good motivation and naturally being able to practice the Dharma well. So therefore it's very good to be able to recite the Dewachen prayer. And there are people who practice the Mahamudra, people who practice Dzogchen. So it's very good to do these practices. And in addition, one can also do the Mahamudra, the prayer for rebirth in Dewachen. So that's not going to cause any harm to do that in addition. So one can, along with one's practice of Mahamudra, along with one's practice of Dzogchen, one can also on the side be doing prayer to Dewachen and cultivating the causes for rebirth there. And then some people are very busy, they have a lot of work, and so do not have much opportunity to practice. So if they don't have that opportunity or the application to do a great deal of practice, then along with just whatever they're doing, you can cultivate these four causes for rebirth in Dewachen. So there's something that's very simple. It's something that's very simple to do. So one can do that along with whatever else one is doing. So it's not a kind of very profound and subtle teaching, but it's very simple, straightforward, and easy to do. And so it's good to be able to do that along with whatever one is doing, and also through this practice of doing the prayer for rebirth in Dewa Chen, one will gain confidence in terms of like death and dying, and so that this will not cause one any anxiety because of one's application and habituation to the prayer and the causes for rebirth in Dewa Chen. So therefore it's something that's very good to do on a regular basis. So the Buddha in the sutras and the tantras, he gave many vast and profound teachings. Then also within amongst those teachings, he gave the teachings of the of Amitabha and on Dewa Chen. So, considering that these teachings would be beneficial for those certain beings who are capable of practicing that, he gave these teachings, and so they are something that is very good, beneficial to practice. So Rinpoche is very glad that being able to give these teachings on the 4 causes for rebirth in Dewa Chen, and so it's very fortunate we've been able to give these teachings here, and he thinks it's something that can be very beneficial for people. There are those who, on hearing the teachings, will then practice. I think this is very good, and will practice the prayer for rebirth in Dewa Chen, and so through doing that, then they will gain the good fortune of being reborn in Dewa Chen. So that's very, very fortunate. And then some people, on hearing these teachings, will feel a little doubtful about them, but that's only natural, isn't it? That one can't be criticized for feeling doubtful about this. But even so, they will have heard the name of Amitabha and Dewa Chen, and this will have created a latency within you. So in the future that will be beneficial. And then, of course, some people may think, no, yes, they're teaching on Dewa Chen that there is really no such place. This is just not true, and so won't believe in it. But also for them, still hearing this teaching will have been very beneficial, because they will have heard the name of the Amitabha Sutra, the Dewa Chen Sutra, and so on, and this will have left within them a seed and a latency which will be of great benefit for them in the future. So being able to give this teaching is something very good and very fortunate, and Rinpoche is very glad to have had the opportunity to be able to do that. And so Rinpoche says that will be, conclude. It's a talk for this afternoon, and he'd like to say, thank you for people who have come here. Some people have had great difficulties to come here, and they had to come from very far away, and so it's been very hard to come. But thinking like only of the Dharma, and gone back through its difficulties, and come from the places that are very far away to come here to receive the teachings, thinking that it's very important to receive these teachings. And so she wants to say thank you to all those people who've had to come from great distances and to come here. And also those who live nearby. You may live very near, but then you also have like your work and your jobs, and sometimes those jobs are very important, and but still that you've kind of had to maybe abandon your important tasks and work, and be thinking that what's really important is the Dharma, and be able to come and receive these Dharma teachings. And so this work I'm doing is not so important, and someone's had to abandon various things that one should be doing, and has come here to receive these teachings. So Rinpoche also wants to say thank you to all those from nearby who have come here to receive these teachings. So Rinpoche wants to thank everyone, all those from far away and all those from nearby who have come here and for to take this course, this retreat. So thank you to you all. And then also thank you to those who have planned and organized this this retreat. So I have to go, do all the work, planning and organizing, so that it will run well, and it has been organized well, and it's all been run very well. So I want to thank all the people who have done that, because also it's a hard job to do this, and it's particularly it's difficult to do this because, unlike other lamas who say, "Well, I'll come every year at this particular time," that Thrangu Rinpoche will come one year, will come a bit earlier, another time will come later, and so now can't give what time, can't say what time is going to come, and then suddenly we'll say, well, I can come at this time, and so on. So it's very difficult for those who are arranging this. It's very difficult to arrange a course given by Thrangu Rinpoche. So he really wants to thank all those who have gone through the difficulties of organizing and planning this. And so Rinpoche wants to thank everyone for being here, but it's glad that you're here, but then you have to then go back to your homes, and so you have work and things that you have to do, and but if you want, while doing these things, what's important is this is something that you have to do, all this work, but she asks that you don't forget the Dharma while doing other things, and also that if one can do this practice of Dewa Chen, if one can have the prayer for rebirth in Dewa Chen, and to be able to recite that is very good, and to cultivate these 4 causes for rebirth in Dewa Chen. So this will be very beneficial. It's beneficial for one's practice of the sutras and the mantrayana, and then at times when you are free, when you have a break, or when you have holidays, she asks that you use this time to practice well. So we'll end with the recitation of the short prayer for rebirth in Dewa Chen, which is on page Shipshu 40.
Yendo sembo do jendo no la sanje jansa ba me gori deji monsra ba de me ba ye dewa jinje ja jin kom der dan de ne sembo jro ma do je wa yin je barama Dero jene non de chando yo de geda nangam da bande joju sanje jansam dom je ge men ro bara je la tu so de ada ben zande awam bodanai
I would just like to say, for all of us, directly, thank you very, very much for coming to Maine and teaching. Last night we saw some pictures of Vajravidya, which is beautiful, it's magnificent. And I've seen Namo Buddha, which is going to be even larger, it looks like. These are vast projects. Training the nuns to be Khenpos, working to train so that they'll be the Kagyu lineage will keep going strong. Any of these projects could be for just one person, one man could spend a lifetime on these. And teaching the Karmapa, lots of vast activity, and yet Rinpoche comes here to a small town in Maine, teaches us, asks for people's names in a book, answers little questions. I think what Jane said describes it well, is capacity. And so we're very thankful for your great capacity. And lastly, and I've said this before, I'm going to keep saying it, Rinpoche teaches very clearly. The Dharma can be complex, sometimes really hard to understand, but when he teaches it, we understand it. And I see a lot of his students starting to get clear about the Dharma. So thank you for your clarity. And please come again, on behalf of all of us, please come back to Maine and teach us again. Thank you very much. And this is from all of us, Rinpoche.
Zeme thole no